Thank you for attending. This session is how to use WordPress for your business, nonprofit, or as a blogger beyond blogging. So for everyone. And but I'm calling it on here WordPress static page function to publish topical home pages. Mostly because have you seen all the other titles? They're all technical. So this is the closest we're going to get to technical. But you are in the right session if that's what you came for. If you have any questions, please ask them. That will totally increase your chances of getting them answered as we're going along. So please just throw that out. That's me, really quickly. My background is in newspaper reporting. I was a newspaper reporter for many years. I went into the video production industry, produced training videos for banks and credit unions nationwide. Worked from the same media company where I worked as a reporter, did some WordPress things there, and then I went to United Way of East Central Iowa in Cedar Rapids. So that's kind of my background. If you wonder what that has to do with anything, all those different jobs, it all circles around how do you tell stories, how do you share things that people can relate to, sort of storytelling, right? That's the latest buzzword today. That's what I've done. Really quickly, this is the communications team at United Way. We have a content development specialist. She goes out and she shoots a lot of video and comes back with content for all of our different channels. We have a graphic designer in the middle there, multimedia designer who helps us design a lot of our home pages and other materials. And then we have an event planner and myself, and that's Flat Ron. Everybody know Flat Stanley? Mm-hmm. Flat Ron is our Flat Stanley version of our campaign share. So that looks just like him. The reason I show them here is because, first of all, we couldn't do without him. And second of all, you might walk away from here and think, we cannot do this. We don't have enough people, too much work, and it might not work for you. Or you might walk away from this session and think, oh, I can do some of these things, but I'm probably not going to go design something in Adobe Edge, because who knows what Adobe Edge is? Anybody? So, right? So you might be able to do that, but other people might not. So that's part of the presentation. It's just to kind of get a grip on, can you do something like this? Maybe you can do some of it. This is our content strategy at United Way. And everything we do, some people call it digital first. Everything we do, we post on the website. So if you're going to go to lunch with me today or see me at the Happiness Bar at, I think, 2:30 or 1:30 or something like that, and I cannot give you a link to something that I'm talking about, something didn't work, right? I didn't post something on the web, somebody else didn't post something on the web. Everything we do goes on the website. And the reason that's important to know, what that has to do with WordPress and this whole thing is we had to find a system that was easy to use for just about anybody in the organization, not just the people that can actually code things. So everything goes on the web, WordPress, easy to use, anybody can use it. My CEO can use WordPress. I'm not saying she couldn't use other things, but that's how easy it is to use. Then we go out into all these other channels. And that's very easy. Once you have it on the web, you just reformat things to the other channels. Okay, back to the topical home pages. So this is how our website evolved. And you can do this. I mean, I did this. I have no coding background at all. I do have a developer in Cedar Rapids who sometimes helps me when I can't guess where to move code to, if I ever have to go into code, but I hardly ever go into code, very rarely. Top left there, that used to be our website a few years ago. We couldn't update it. We had to go into the code to update it. Just the little headlines on the right there. So that really didn't work very well for us. Then right here, we got this template. This is a premium template, cost like $70 to buy. It did most everything that we wanted it to do. And I know I kind of moved the new version over here, but what you can see here, just a little bit, people were posting things in different categories, the different categories that we care about, and it was so much. It was like, we had like 10 stories on this topic and 10 stories on this topic and then 10 more things on this, and it just got a little much for people to even look at. So we thought about what could we do, how could we streamline the things a little bit, and we went to this what I call a topical homepage model. Some people call it microsites, temporary microsites. So you know how people create microsites on a topic and they leave it up. That's really what this is. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to really minimize the content on the home page but keep it very specific to a topic. So right now, for example, the United Way campaign kicked off, so we're just talking about the campaign, help us raise money. School has just started, so we might do a homepage on what does that have to do with anything that United Way does, right? So we're talking about back to school, here are the things that you might be interested in, here are the things that, that students should know. Before the school year started, when the school year was over, but when summer started, we had a homepage on, what do you do in the summer to keep up on your reading so you don't have what's called the summer slide. During Financial Stability Month, we might talk about that on the homepage. During the summer, we had summer meals. So we have made that switch ever since. So once every site should have a goal, right? Do you have a goal for your website? Anybody? You probably do, even if you haven't written it down. My first WordPress experience was with Eastern Iowa News in 2009. And I sat at home one day and I thought, hey, I should launch a community startup. Think the Patch Network, except I set it up and it had nothing to do with AOL. And I thought, I should just set this up. How do I do it? Everybody talks about WordPress. I think it's pretty easy to do, right? Sure. So I set it up and I just launched it. And had you asked me on day 1 or day 50, I couldn't have told you what the site goal was. But if I really thought about it, there was a site goal. I wanted to connect people to content that was going on in their neighborhoods. So one of the site goals is to be the community connector around topics of impact. So United Way focuses on education, health, and financial stability. So why is that important? Because we want to share relevant content in these areas. So we don't just want to have a website that says, click here to donate. We do want people to donate, obviously, but we also want to share content around these topics. So if you understand what it takes for a family to be financially stable in Iowa, for example, right? The more you know, the more likely you are to volunteer, the more likely you are to share the message, the more likely you are to talk about it, and that sort of thing. So we're trying to share those stories. The one story that always stands out to me on this topic, if I can share this quickly, take a wild guess how much it takes for a single parent in Iowa to meet basic needs, how much they have to make per hour. Any wild guesses? Just take a wild guess.
16.
How much? 12, okay. 16. Any others? So minimum wage is like 7 something, right? So you have to make $18 to meet basic needs with one kid. And that's a story we've shared numerous times, and we've shared stories of how people have come out of that. If you have 2 children, it's $24 an hour. I know plenty of jobs that don't pay $18 an hour. So why the homepage? Why do we care about that so much? This is a really quick look at our website flow. Very similar to Eastern Iowa News when I was at other companies. Same thing. People come to the homepage, right? So this is the starting page, the homepage. We have some other pages here, and then we have over 100 pages where people start into. So this is probably usually we share something on Twitter or Facebook, and they just come there to read one headline, and then they're out of there. But most people start on the homepage, right? Most people come to your homepage. So that's where we want to engage you. So as a business, if you just put up a static homepage and there's nothing new, who are you going to get? You're only going to get the people that want something very specific from you, and they might just come back one time, and they might not come back and check out what's new. So that's kind of the idea of what we're trying to do on the homepage. So then when we launched this, this was one of our first ones. I had it up earlier, and I'm really bad at bragging, I guess. So this concept actually won us the CMS Expo WordPress Site of the Year award for the US this last year. So that's kind of exciting. This is the site that they highlighted. What were we trying to do? It was a volunteering month. I think it was April, and we did the first virtual volunteer fair on our website. So the entire homepage just flipped to the virtual volunteer fair. Now this was created in Adobe Edge, and if you know how to use Adobe Edge, that's good for you. It's a great tool. This works on iPhones, iPads, maybe not quite as nicely on the iPhone, but still usable, not optimized. I have no idea how to use Adobe Edge. My designer designed it, and I just say, here's, I think, what it should say and where it should link to. So that might not be something you can do. But then you click on these different things, and basically you can sign up to volunteer right then. So very, very timely. These are some other examples. Last year we had the Giving Tuesday. It was the first time after Thanksgiving. So there's, let's see if I can get this right. There's Thanksgiving, then there's Black Friday, correct? Small Business Saturday, Cyber Monday, and now there's Giving Tuesday. So Wednesday is still open after that, but now there's Giving Tuesday. So we thought, well, that's kind of interesting. We haven't done that before, obviously because it was brand new nationwide. So we said, what could we do? Well, so we came up with the 12 days of giving leading up to Giving Tuesday. You know the song, 12 Days of Christmas. So we redid that song with United Way lyrics. I'm not going to sing it for you. I'm not going to dance. That's one of my rules. I don't dance or sing ever, not just presentations. And you can go on in and you can watch it. It's still on the website. But what we did is we tried to tie it in very timely to what else was going on. You know, newspapers were writing about Giving Tuesday. So we had something on our website about Giving Tuesday, and we shared it with the news media. And sometimes they cover it, and sometimes they don't. But if we don't share it, they surely won't cover it. Every dollar makes a difference. We talked about that. Then we had a holiday volunteer and giving guide. And then, of course, you can still volunteer and donate. And we had other stories. So as you can see, very timely. We're trying to tie it in with whatever else is going on. Not just the day's news stories, but those things, but things we can actually plan for. Every year we have our volunteer awards breakfast. So we switch the homepage again to vote for the volunteer of the year. And as you can see, this is just an image. I say just. It sounds very easy in my head. I didn't create it, but it's an image, and that we just put on there through the functions that the theme gives us. And then we have a headline, some text, a quote. This is just a sidebar, and I'll talk about that in a second. So it's really just a page you can create very easily in WordPress once you have all the different pieces. Here's some other examples. This is one I really zoomed in quite a bit just to show this to you. A little text heavy, right? Sometimes people, depending what we're doing and something didn't work or did work, sometimes they look nicer than other times. And I'm pretty sure one time I showed this to somebody live at a conference, and they said, well, show me this award-winning website you have. So I pulled it up, and I hadn't moved something around. It didn't look as good as probably the volunteer fair. And they were like, oh, okay. So sometimes you have to, it's not always a home run. But the reason, when I get back to some of the tips on how you can do it or do parts of it that I want to share here, all the content on this page, this is about summer meals. So children that get reduced lunches in school, in the summer they don't get meals anywhere because school is not in session. So there's United Way partners who actually who actually provide meals to children in need. So this entire content on this page, we created this right here, the text. Everything else was created by somebody else, and we just put it in one place. So this is not our logo. We get to use it. We ask for permission, and we can use it. They want people to use it. This is actually, I almost said a podcast, but a live radio interview from one of the partners on one of the radio stations. And once it's on the radio, they send it to us, and they said, here's our clip. If you'd like to use it, go right ahead. So we put it right here. This is a map, just a Google map. You can do this fairly easily, of where all the meal sites are in the Cedar Rapids area. And I could probably create this, but I didn't. A researcher at one of the local media companies created this for us, and then he sent us the code. And then they used it on the TV website too, because they wanted to share it there. This down here is another interview that runs on one of the local media companies, one of the local cable stations, with one of the partners. So all the content on this page, we didn't even create. We just said, we'll put it here and we can share it. So now people are searching for summer lunches for children, my kid is hungry, things like that, right? Because we optimized it, people actually ended up here and found the resources that they were looking for. So win-win for everybody, right? This is the one that's currently up, and I already updated it last night because we have a new banner. But again, it's a graphic. We got a couple buttons here that you can click on. And the way you can create this, sometimes, I don't know how familiar you are with linking. In my opinion, every image should link to something, right? Do you agree with that? And not a bigger version of itself. Do you know what I mean? So every image should link to something. So this up here links to the donate page, I think. I'm not actually sure. This links to the volunteer page, and this links to the donate page. So how do you do that if you have a big image like that? Anybody know? Yeah, except the answer was image maps. Yes, that is correct, but I have no idea how to do that, actually. So you could do image map if you know how to do that, but the other way to do it is, this is actually one image right here. So it's uploaded into the post of the body of the post, the page. These are actually pages. And then these are separate images. And if you just put them next to each other and they fit the width and they're aligned none, instead of, you know what I'm talking about? You align them as none when you put them in. They're right there and you can link them to separate things. And then this is the sidebar. That's all it is. Looks okay, right? I mean, you don't have right? Fairly okay. Okay, workflow. You know, there are some things you have to figure out if you decide to do this. You do have to identify the topics based on what's going on and based on what your business is and based on what your organization does and based on what your blog does. Now, also this PowerPoint presentation is available on my blog, christophsblog.com. I assume that I did set it to publish, so I assume that worked. I'm on the right time zone. I have no idea, but it should be there in a little bit, christophsblog.com. Identify the topics that are coming up. Not today, not tomorrow. You know, sometimes you hear people talk about what's in the news today. We need to respond to what's going on in the news, right? So you might watch CNN or Fox News or whatever channel you want to watch, and they have some big news story and say, oh, I should share my opinion on that because people gonna Google that topic and they're gonna come to my blog. Do you think that's likely? If you have a brand new blog or a brand new, probably not, right? I mean, everybody's writing about it, so chances are it's going to be fairly difficult to get any traffic anyways, especially if you're new. If you're a business or an organization, a little trickier anyways, because do you want to talk about that topic? You know, most national news stories, for United Way, I would not want to even give an opinion on. I would not want to have anything to do with. Some topics, if they fit into our area, sure, but not necessarily at that point in time. So identify what's coming up. What we do a lot of times, we look at what's the month. You know, every month it has some topic that, you know, this is Financial Stability Month. The next month is something else, something else. So what's coming up that's relevant to what you do? So if you have an organization that, you know, sells air conditioners, for example, how do you, in the summer kicks off, you could talk about, you know, this is what you do with air conditioners in the summer. I know that's pretty obvious, but right, you use them, but some topic related to what you do. Oop, did I click? Yep. Make a plan. Outline the important topics. What can you say about them? You know, we have a long list of things that, in theory, we would want to publish, but we can get to them all. And sometimes we don't have much to say about them. We're like, this is interesting, but what do we say? What's important about it? Visuals. You do have to have visuals on your homepage. It can be text heavy. If you end up text heavy, it shouldn't be a homepage probably. You can have some text, but not too much. How long will it take to produce? When we first came up with this concept, we had this whole long list, and we got to the point where like we could change the homepage every week. I do not have the time in the world to create a new homepage every week. So we were on a Twitter chat talking about this a few weeks ago, and they said, how do you know you're doing too much? I said, when it feels like it's too stressful. You know, like if you're updating things all the time, and it's like, why are we updating this all the time? Every week, or you could do it like every day if you wanted to, but you probably don't want to get to that. So yeah, can it be done? Can you actually get it done with all the other things you're trying to do? It's really important to look at that. Is it too timely? Do you have a backup plan? So here's an example that happened to us. In 2008, huge flood hit Cedar Rapids. Lots of homes were destroyed, lots of damage, people, businesses were lost. And in just this last June, it was the 5-year anniversary. So we had a homepage designed that said, remembering the flood of 2008, here's some of the things that United Way did, here's some of the things that happened in the city, here's some of the things that happened here. And then one day before the anniversary, there was a threat of flooding in Cedar Rapids. Any idea what I did with that homepage? I didn't trash it, but I took it down. It did not stay on the homepage. It was just, and the flood, there was hardly any flooding this year, but it looked like it was going to be relatively bad. But just everybody's reaction, just hearing about it, I wasn't even affected and I felt sick. I'm like, oh my God, not again, just because I remember how bad it was. And I took it down. I moved it off the homepage. So what are you going to do if something like that happens, right? And how are you going to do it? And how are you going to switch it back? Now, WordPress, we'll get to this in a second, but you can do a lot of things from your phones, from your iPads. When I travel, I don't travel all that often, but when I do, I only take my mobile devices. And can I make a switch if I'm only on a mobile device? So those are just some of the things to think about. You can. It's really kind of a pain to do in Safari because you can do it on the app. But those are the things to think about if you're too timely. So here's an example. Identify the topic. What's the topic you're going to work on? Identify the content. Map out the homepage. Now, we don't go as deep as actually wireframing each homepage, but we kind of look at what do we have to put on the homepage. Sometimes we kind of change things as we go. Like on Thursday, our campaign kicked off, and we had this really nice picture of 2 girls. They had a lemonade stand, and they came in and they donated the money to United Way. They said, we had a lemonade stand, here's the money, we want to support you. Kind of a nice story, right? So we had them help us, and they held up these signs that says, help us raise $9.9 million in our 99th year. So I actually added their picture to our existing homepage on the top, so I just kind of updated on the fly, and we didn't even think about that until Thursday. So, but you do want to kind of think about what are the visuals. Collect content. If you don't have the content, you can switch to a different homepage, or you shouldn't publish anything. Sometimes that could be your opinion depending on what you do. Sometimes it could be facts. We go out and we gather facts from other organizations that do research. Visuals are really important. Sometimes sometimes it's as easy as using somebody's logo that's involved in what you're talking about, or using your own logo, or using a picture of something. But did I mention that visuals are important, right? Buzzword alert. Call to action, right? Have you heard this? Every homepage has to have a call to action. Who has reacted to a call to action today? Anybody? Can you give me an example? What? So if it says donate now, volunteer now, after you read this, click here to do X, Y, and Z, or click here to sign your life away to pledge this pledge. You know what I mean? Something like that. So yes.
Are you going to tell us how to do that, how to get a call to action on your page?
Well, it's really just what do you want people to do after they read something. So
I know what it is, but
yeah.
I mean, how do you make it work so that they can volunteer or donate and you get the money or you get the...
We can get into that a little bit. The question is how do you create a call to action? How do you get people to donate, to volunteer? So do you mean once you click on it?
How do you set it up in WordPress to do that so that it actually comes to you? Is it a link or?
Correct. Yes, you would link to wherever people can take that action. So for example, if my call to action is donate now, in our case we would link to PayPal so they can make an online donation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and what button do you hit on WordPress to be able to do that link?
So what button do you
how do you set it up? Are you going to tell us that?
How do you set it up? It's really just an image with a link to PayPal.
Right, but I want to know how you link it to PayPal. I don't know how to do that.
Okay, maybe we can talk offline, but yeah, we're not going to go into the details of how to link an image, but I can definitely explain that to you, absolutely. So some pages need a call to action. Donate now, volunteer now, whatever you want people to do. But I wouldn't get hung up on this all that often, because, I mean, it really depends on what your business is. Sometimes you may not need a call to action. Sometimes you're just sharing information. The Summer Meals homepage, what's the call to action on that? Right? Show up. How can I even measure that? I mean, people won't say. The answer was show up, in case you're wondering why I'm repeating everything, because this is recorded and you guys aren't mic'd. So show up. So you can tell. And it's also informational. So if I don't need a meal for my daughter, but I might be interested in supporting the program, the call to action might be donate, and you can still see that. So think about what you want people to do, if anything. Sometimes you don't need a call to action. Design the home page. Basically, you build it in a new page inside WordPress. If you were here in the first session, they talked about the difference between a post and a page. And all you really do, instead of creating a post, you create a page. That's all it is. That's really how simple. And I'll show you some examples here. Did I mention visuals? Not yet, right? You really need visuals. A couple options, you can design them yourself. Adobe Edge is really nice. There is a plugin that actually lets you import it directly into your site. But it is a little more difficult. I would not use it. If it was just me, I'd probably never use Adobe Edge. But you can design it yourself. If you have some skills, you can use, I mean, there's all kinds of programs out there to do that. Ask somebody to help. Before I went even back to Unite Away, I was just on my Rotary Club was doing a fundraiser on something, and they wanted something designed, and they sent it to me because they thought I knew how to design things. And I'm like, yeah, thanks for sending it, but I don't know. And I put it on my Facebook page, and I said, could somebody help me with this flyer for Rotary? And I had people respond, and they said, yeah, sure, absolutely. And I think they just did it. So who's in your network that wants to help or that has interest in helping? So ask other people. The map, I already mentioned that. A researcher at the media company did it. It's not part of his regular day job. He just kind of volunteered. And yes, they did end up using it, but we didn't ask him to use it. It was just people help with some of those things. Take pictures, right? How many people have already taken a picture of this class, this session? It's not a class. A bunch of people. How many people took a picture in the last week with your phone? Anybody? That's like every person almost, right? Did I see that right? Almost any person. So you can take pictures of all kinds of things. One time I did a blog post and I put front door example. I can't remember what the blog post was even about, but it had something to do with people knocking. I think it was about people knocking on my door and saying they wanted to sign me up for one service or another. And you know what I did? I took a picture of my front door that was a little open for my blog post. Very easy to get a visual right for something. I could have used that on the home page. So you can take pictures of anything that would work. Now be careful if you take pictures of other people. If you take a picture of me and you decide, let's say you are a nutrition company or something, you decide, hey, we're going to do a homepage on obesity and you're going to use my picture, I might have an issue with that, right? So think about what you're going to use it for. But you can do those kind of generic things. Creative Commons, does everybody know what that is? You can go to Flickr or you can go to Google, search for Creative Commons images and use those. Sometimes anybody can use them, so it's not that unique to you, but it is an option. The other thing that you might think about, and that's really not part of this too much, but is your content offered Creative Commons, under Creative Commons. All Unite Away content is offered under Creative Commons, so you can go to our website and you can use our content as long as you attribute it to us. Now, for some businesses, that will not work. So for Eastern Iowa News, when I did that, that was absolutely not offered under Creative Commons at that point because, we were making money off of our content, people coming to our site, advertising around it. So it might not work, but in the Unite Away example, I want people to use the content, right? If somebody prints out my map and takes it to some kid down the road who needs a lunch, I want them to use it. I want them to put it on their blog. So think about that. You're going to offer your stuff. Because if other people wouldn't do it, right, you might not have images either. Ask others for images. Especially, we don't do this too often at United Way, but when I was at Eastern Iowa News, we asked people for their photos all the time. And guess how many people said no, that we could not use their photos? Not a single person. Everybody let us use their images as long as we gave them credit. You know, so it's people, I think most people really want to help and be part of it. So this is the tech stuff, kind of, because it's really not all that techy. But I'm told WordCamp there has to be some tech things. So the way you create a topical homepage or any static homepage that's not a template, you go to Pages and you just click on Add New. Make sense? Easy enough, right? Then you get this. You've seen this before. When I first started using WordPress, and especially when some of my team started using them, we posted things as a post and a page sometimes, and then it's like, this wasn't posted to the website. Yes, it was. I posted it, and then we go back and we try to find it, and somebody posted it as a page or a post, depending on what you were currently using. So really important to keep an eye on that, because they look really similar, and if you don't pay attention, you may not know where you are. We use something called the Custom Sidebars plugin, and you can really just go into the WordPress, the plugin section, and search for custom sidebars, and you can download it. So on the right side, that's the sidebar, and we use that as a design element. So the home page can have a different sidebar than any other page, and we can create all these different sidebars for the different pages, and all you do is you just pick it here. Make sense? So it's very easy. Then you don't have to get into code and do that. So all you do is you update it. You put the title up here, even though the title disappears once you send it to the front, and then you just put your content here, like you would do a post. That's really all it is. That's how simple. High tech, right? How do you create a sidebar once it's installed? So first you install it, appearance, custom sidebars, click on that, and then here you insert your new name. I would recommend, earlier we talked about, in the first session afterwards, we talked about images. How do you find images? And my thought was you find images by giving them very specific names. So the image of me standing up here, if I post it on my blog, I should really name it Christoph Trapp, WordCamp, Grand Rapids 2013, topical homepages. So you can search for it later on. So not just, digital camera 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll never find that ever again. So very important, whatever you call the page, call it the same thing here. Don't call it something else. If you call it campaign kickoff or new product summer 2013, and that's not a good title either. You should have whatever the product is, and then name it the same thing so you can find it, because over here it'll show up in your widgets area, and as you can see, we have all kinds of sidebars already, and this is just a really short snippet here. So there's a bunch more. You'll never find them ever again if you don't name them the right thing. So you do that, and then when you have created the page, and I will be at the happiness bar in a little bit here. If you want to dig deeper, feel free to stop by. So we're not going to go over how do you actually insert an image into the page, or how do you do a heading or those kind of things. But then once you have created your page, all you have to do is you go to Settings, click on Reading, and then here you get these options. Front page displays your latest post. So most blogs are set to your latest post. So whatever you post last will go on the home page, especially on the standard templates, those. And then here, if you change it to a static page, you can actually pick any of the pages that you created. So any page that you created, you can make that the home page. So you just go over here, you find the page, whatever name it was, and you click Save Changes, and that's it. And it's the home page. Now, if you use some kind of caching, if you have a cache plugin, you will have to delete the cache so it refreshes. And sometimes, that took me a while to actually remember to do, because I would make it a new homepage and I'm so excited about it. I would Facebook it to a bunch of people and say, check out the new homepage. And they said, oh, the video looks great. And I'm like, well, that's the video we just had up. Why is it not working? So you really want to do that. So I think I'm going to run out of time, but that's great. Thank you for being here. If you have any questions. Yes.
Are there set of metrics? Are there ways to measure who's landing on different pages and how they're using the pages in your site?
Yeah. So we use Google Analytics, and that's by far the easiest. And there's other things you can add depending on, if you send them through Twitter, or if you can add links to those links, so you can measure that. Yep. Google Analytics is by far the easiest, in my opinion. Yeah.
What about the SEO implications of putting completely different content on your homepage every couple of weeks, and then do you just make that content disappear? Do you just unpublish the page, or do
No.
you make it available under another URL?
So the question is, what's the SEO implication? So there's none. It's actually, I think it's helping our SEO, because we, the other day I looked it up and we had like 700 pages were crawled by Google the day before or something. And I think I thought we didn't even have that many pages, but I guess we do. So we don't unpublish anything. We just take it off. We just take it off the homepage. So it's still available somewhere else under the original URL. So for example, if the homepage tomorrow becomes the page that's called Christoph Trapp, when we're done with it, I will just take it off the homepage, but it's still available if people search for it. Does that make sense? In general, I would advocate to never ever unpublish anything. And I'll give you an example. I will not tell you exactly what who the people are, but there was a string of a certain group of people being arrested when I was at the Gazette in Cedar Rapids, and their organizations had their pictures on their website, and every time they were arrested, they took the pictures of the people being arrested off their website, and the newsroom literally had a competition to who could find the picture first. And there was never a case where we didn't find the picture, even though they had deleted it. So nothing ever gets deleted. So you can find a cache page. So I would recommend not deleting it and just moving it somewhere else and still having it on there. Yeah.
How do you handle it when you change your page, say, every 3 weeks or every month, and somebody comes to your site and they say, every time I go to it, I don't recognize it because it looks so different. How do I find what? If all I want to do is just go in there and make a donation.
Yep.
So do you have like certain things that are always the same and then you just change?
Yep. Yeah, so the question is, what if you change your site all the time and people come to it and say, is this the right site? So the header is always the same. The navigation on the top is always the same. The footer is always the same. There's always a donation button down there. There's always a volunteer button. How do you contact us? How do you find us? So some of those things we keep intact. The other thing we're really trying to do is people still post other things that aren't the main thing on the homepage. So the headline feed, we always try to keep a headline feed somewhere because people are still looking for other things. But we have not had that feedback. In fact, offline, most comments have been, we love your site. There's always something new going on. We're checking it.
But it's still branded very
Yes.
well so that people
Yep.
know that it's not a fake.
Correct. Yep. And the header is always the same and has the United Way branding and all those things. Absolutely. What else?
So is that a custom thing that you do? How do you set up the pages for showing up? If you're not using the same
I'm not sure.
Like, where would the page show up on the site now?
Well, wherever you.
700
Yeah. So we actually try to make it under. The question is, how do you put it on the sitemap? So we put it under the topics where it should actually show up. So if we probably don't do a very good job most of the time, honestly. But if it's an annual campaign related topic, we actually make it a child to the annual campaign actual page, so it still shows up there because, that's where it should be. Yep.
Are there any features that WordPress doesn't offer that you wish it did, or do you ever run into that?
Are there any features WordPress doesn't offer?
Are there any capabilities it doesn't offer that you wish it had?
You know, I think one thing we're currently thinking about is how do you really integrate all of our different sites with each other. So we have this, we have a volunteer database, which is a different system. Then we have the 211 database, which is a totally different system. You can now, you know, 211 is a resource number you can call for help. I think Michigan probably has it. And we now have the entire database online, but they're all different systems. So I really would, you know, how do you integrate them all together? Because they all have different features, and WordPress is so easy to use. So that's probably the biggest thing. Batch OS, yes. I just actually looked at that last night. You maybe. Is that what you're talking about? No.
I'm not sure if that's, it's just like, it would just be a link to something, but it would be like a big badge, so that if somebody clicked on it, they would go right into that other site, you wouldn't even realize.
And that's what we do. But how do you integrate it all together to have one user experience that I can use on the back end? This is the front end user wouldn't know the difference, right? Yep. What else? Well, I'll be here all day. If you have any other questions, feel free to catch me. And as I said, this is available on christophsblog.com. Thanks.